Yet another Wednesday then. There was nothing else for me. I guess all my memories that I wanted to relive were so strong because it was the first time. No Redux could bring them back, because they would not be the first time anymore. But with Yone, this was the first time. For the first time after Redux, I didn't have a general idea of what things will be like, or how they can turn out. It was something new, something unpredictable. And although I realized that perhaps this is again my first time with something, all my attempts to fully enjoy it failed. What a surprise. Really, how do you fully enjoy a situation? It's impossible. And when you recall some moments, you only think about their essence. That's why they are so beautiful. Or horrible. Either way, you can't really know on what to focus. It's something that critically requires time. When in the present, you can do it. If you did, why should you remember then? So I made my own illusion. An illusion that was Yone. I never thought about the devastating logic of relationships. I never thought about the real impact of my final goal. If I would tell that goal to myself, if I just formulated the one sentence, its absurdity would surely hit me. I wanted to be Yone's boyfriend. But I guess I was enough. So much. Yone didn't even notice me really, and I was dreaming about all those things. In reality, I couldn't do what I wanted. If I ever look an action, at best, Yone would take that as the result of a teenage mind. A boy whose hormones are taking over his reason. And even if I got past that, and somehow Yone would in some perverted way agree on being together with her student, but most importantly a boy half her age, it would never be a relationship. A love affair, however, was not what I wanted. Nor did I want a relationship without any physical contact. I thought Yone was really a woman who I could be with, completely. And that also meant sexually. Every time I looked at her breasts, every time I imagined how her legs look under her skirt, I just begged for her to forgive me for such thoughts. I felt terrible, because I liked Yone as a person. I didn't just want to see in her an object. Yet, from time to time, I couldn't help it. She was attractive in many ways to me, and this was one of them. It didn't mean I didn't respect her, and I like to think it would perhaps be more disrespectful to not think of her that way. A person likes to be loved for everything she is. I would not only love the person she is, but also her body. Every scar she might have, I would love. It wouldn't matter to me. That day, I will always remember. It was once again a Wednesday. Yone was wonderful. We started a discussion as we always did when the lesson began. After the discussion, we were learning new material, so it's logical the class wanted to prolong the discussion as much as possible. It wasn't really different that day either. Yone smiled to stop the last attempt from a boy who was all too obvious. She stood up and started to hand out today's papers. Because I was the person nearest her desk, she started with me and continued to give them to the rest of the class. And that day was no difference. My heart was beating faster, because every time Yone handed out papers, she would come closer and I could see her in even more detail. It was hard to focus on anything because she was so beautiful. Today, I was going to just look at her. But before I could make up my mind, Yone was already giving me the paper. I guess for a split second I was not paying attention. So I quickly snapped out of it and hastily looked at my teacher. Yone already put the paper on my desk, and seeing that I was somewhat dreamy, wanted to slide that paper that was on the table towards me, probably with some funny remark that I should wake up. So when I realized what was going on, the paper was already on my way. I made a hasty move because it surprised me, and instead of catching the paper, I almost pushed it off the desk. I panicked and tried to grab that paper that was slipping off the desk. But so did Yone. Oh, where is this going? Where is it going? She probably thought I wasn't going to catch it, so she reached for it as well. And then our hands touched. Yeah, that's what I thought. Just for a brief second. Yone and I instinctively pulled away our hands and I managed to hold onto the paper. I touched her hand. Yone continued to hand out the papers as if nothing happened. Not even an oops or the like did she say. She just sort of apologetically smiled. But did that matter? I touched her hand. I touched Yone. And it was a soft touch, because both of us quickly softened our movements the second our heads touched, as not to hurt or touch the other one too hard. Compared to the speed at which both of us jumped to save the paper, the touch was incredibly soft. Even after a few minutes, I still felt my hands shaking of all the excitement. I found it hard to concentrate on what Yone was saying, because we touched. And she had to feel it too. Oh, she had it? I hope she wouldn't ask me anything, because my voice would surely still be shaking as well. And I had to be completely red. I knew it. The heat waves that were going through my body were an indication. I hoped Akari and Suzy, who were sitting behind me, didn't notice anything. That touch was in my head the whole week. Yone, why did she react like that? I didn't notice anything strange in her behavior. It was almost like a rejection. I realized that. I thought we were close, because we seemed to laugh at the same things. So why did she sometimes smile at me? Just like that. I was really angry at myself, because I thought that Yone made it look like something is possible for me, but it was only like that. It was as if she would make fun of me. I thought of letting it all be. There were practically no chances. I could always hope, but maybe even that wasn't going to be realistic. In the evening before, when I was taking a shower, I looked at myself and realized what body I had. I was still a boy. It was really horrible, even I found it bad. And Yone would not really be normal if she would want to get physical with that kind of body. And in fact, how exactly did I think a relationship with Yone was going to work out? If we'd like to go out to see a movie or just to sit in the park. Was I really that stupid to think she wouldn't mind? That it would be pleasant for her? Everyone would stare. And let's just extend the thoughts. Was I really thinking she would, for instance, just stop and kiss me in front of other people? Normal lovers kiss. But would we be able to kiss? Would she want it? And she even used her tongue. Was that what I was thinking? Yes, that's what you were thinking? I was really an idiot. That's true! I told you that so many times. It would be disgusting to her and everyone else around. It would be like kissing her son. Just like I found it disgusting to think about our girls. The same went for Yone. Of course, I'll just tell her that I am from the future and everything will be fine. Of course she wouldn't believe me. I considered myself to be a strong personality, and I had several problems coping with it. And the only thing that prevented me from losing it altogether was that I knew the Redux was reality. But no matter how I would try to prove it, I wouldn't believe it myself if someone told me this. It was horrible. No, really, there was no way for me and Yone. Even if I just went for an affair and not love, which I was not going to do, but purely hypothetically, even if I did have something with Yone, the second someone would find out, she would get fired from the school. Oh man. Come on. You wouldn't do that even if you wanted to actually. You are lacking in action. You don't do anything. You just dream about everything. The Redux. I thought it was going to be nice, but in general it wasn't. The few good things were nothing compared to what I lost. And as was true with Yone, the what I couldn't have. The craze about Nagata. These days it was really at its peak. The autumn brought with it a new stories of this school story, but this time it was not about Hiromi anymore. For me, this time, Nagata unfolded a completely new side of itself. Nagata was going to get even more popular later on, but when the series started it was a school series like any other. It was quite common to have a school-based series in this country. But unlike some foreign productions which got translated and were aired on TV, the home productions had the huge advantage of taking place in exactly the same schools we all attended. This way we could always relate to them much easier. And while some other series were more popular, the source of inspiration and dreams, the local series were also realistic. It was just like those stories could take place at our school. Nagata was one of those home series which got very popular. You could even say it was the most popular back before the Redux, and watched Nagata because of Hiromi. For a school series though, there was an unusual large cast, so almost everyone found his favorite girl. All in all, this would be like any other school story. But Nagata had something more than that. It had no special plot, no elaborate relationships and problems. It was plain and real. Some episodes just showed the class preparing for a play, not unlike the one our school had at the Banks Park complex. And it was just this, because every school had a performance like that at some point. There were also the simple things like the usual weeklies, which were always 2 students every week. We would rotate every week, and in the given week the pair that was selected had to do all the blackboard cleaning, chalk supply watching, or making sure all chairs were on the tables when they ended. They were the responsible ones for everything that had to be done in the classroom, and often when the teachers needed something from the other teachers during a lesson, they would send one of the weeklies to get to or deliver something. It wasn't lazy of the teachers, because this way they didn't have to leave the class alone. Of course, we had our weekly pairings as well. Currently it was Yan and Seto. It was moments like this that set Nagata apart. The other series has some fantastic scenarios, like that there was a popular school radio, and everyone admired the speakers and the DJs. Of course, our school also had a school radio, but it wasn't as great as the one in the TV series. Or another series had a detective agency within the school, and they would solve cases. Needless to say, this was absolutely great to dream about. What would happen if our school had something like that? But it was very far from what we had. In a way, whenever you got inspired from Nagata, that inspiration was real, and so were all your dreams. One time, the similarity to real life was so striking me and Mori had to almost laugh at it. 2 of the scientific boys in the Nagata class were making a statistical analysis of how much they liked each girl, and every day they would give every one of the girls some points. Later they even put together a graph to determine which girl they liked the most and why. Morian was very amused at this, and so was I. Why? We did something similar. We had our weekly top 5 chart. Of course, my top girl was always Miori, but from our girls I had to admit I liked Yoshiko and even Nami. Sure, it was more fun than serious, and we did it mostly because the subject of girls was ever so fascinating. But it was still good to see that even the real Nagata someone did like we did. We weren't that crazy after all. And in a way, it was a less direct way of talking about which girl you like and why. Still, I had what 17 years back then. For me, that series at that time was just that, very realistic, almost like it happened on our school. Because I had it all, because I was in the same place as the students in the series. I couldn't feel the other side of the Nagata story. And it was that of the teachers. In theory, anyone could watch Nagata, and everyone did. I never knew why it was until now. The series had multiple storylines, and while we used to just look at the student side of the show, there also was a grown-ups aspect. Of course, without noticing anything, we somehow filtered those parts out. Who really cared about the teachers? No one. This time, however, upon watching Nagata again and being Being in a situation like I was, I started to look at the other side. Nagata wasn't really only about the students. Many times the series showed the teachers in conversations about the students, the feared parental meetings that took place once every 3 months, and where the parents got reports on their children and how they do in the various subjects was a perfect example. For us, this was a boring segment of the show, but now I watched with interest. It was really true, the teachers really cared about their students, and they got upset when they saw we had potential, but were not using it. The specific environment was also in many ways melancholic, and I couldn't help to think about Yone. Having all these children around, surely she would remember the times she was like this. I know what kind of an effect that has on people. It was my wish to return to these times. And so I became addicted to the series, just like everyone else. Although this time I did not watch it just to look at Hiromi. I watched the part where the teachers discussed the problems the school had and couldn't help to feel envious. Envious of Yone, envious of the teacher in our school. I had to ironically smile at this whole situation. Before, I really envied the kids for having it all in their teen ages, and now that I myself have become one, I envy the grown-ups. Of course I envied them. I missed being grown up so much. If it weren't for Yone, it would surely destroy me completely. While watching Nagata, I was thinking about what I saw. If I was Yone's age, I would have all that infinite freedom a person has when he can take care of himself. Of course, it was nice to lead a sort of carefree life of a student who really has nothing to do except going to school, as he is completely backed up by his parents. But this was nothing compared to the freedom I had before. If I wanted, I could just walk out of my home in the middle of the night and go buy myself some soda in the overnight shop. Whatever. I could do whatever I wanted. I could decide to move to another country. I could pursue any goal I set my mind on. But you can't go for a girl. You just said you can pursue every goal, but you can't go behind for a girl. Oh, for fuck's sake. And this boy's life I now had back, it was a prison. And that's why all that came back to me when I was watching Nagata. It clearly showed me how different it was for the teachers, each with their own lives, and the school can't ever be just work for a good teacher. In a way, they all cared about their students.